I remember a book, The Knowing Doing Gap, from a person called Jeffrey Pepper. He's a professor at Stanford. He's written many books, but the best, most practical book is called The Knowing Doing Gap. Because knowing is not everything, doing is everything. And in that he says, to know your level of incompetence on a topic, you need to be reasonably competent on the same topic. So Bhagavad Gita is one such thing for me. So when I started looking at it, I just said, read one verse and then you will think there's an ocean behind that one verse. There are 700 verses. I got stuck in one verse only. And because that one alone, if applied, creates infinite possibilities. So the 699 became out of syllabus for me. Right? Because there is so much depth in there. I want to start off, have you all heard of a one-armed wrestler story? Anybody? So there are many variations of it. There is one person who lost his left arm. And then he wanted to be a wrestler. And then he would go and ask teachers, can you please teach me wrestling? And people would look at him and say, are you crazy? I don't know how to teach you wrestling. Because I want to be proud of my students. You don't have one arm. I cannot teach you wrestling. And then he would go to every teacher after teacher. I want to win the wrestling championship. Please teach me wrestling. And then nobody would take him. But there is one teacher who says, I can teach you wrestling. No problem. Come to me. And then he would teach him a few tricks here and there. And there is one step. He said, you have to practice this 100 times a day. So he would practice it, but he would never know why the teacher is telling this one step he has to practice every single day 100 times. So finally the championships come and believe it or not, he just keeps winning and even the best person in the finals will just defeat him with very super easy. And then he didn't know what happened. So he goes to the teacher and said, I myself cannot believe that I won the championship. What did you do? Because I didn't do it. You must have done something. He said, the step I practiced you to do it every single day 100 times, the only response for that step is, your opponent has to hold your left arm. You don't have a left arm. So there is nothing he can do except the other guy is confused. Every single person is confused because there is nothing to hold. So by the time he recovers, he's already won the game. So what happens is that in Gita, when I read this verse, which is chapter 2, verse 47, all of you know it, Karmanyavadikaraste, Mapalishu Kadachana. I said, if this is the one, then I have to act like a one-armed wrestler. So I have to apply it. That's all I can do. Because there is so many other verses. But what if I just apply this for the rest of my life? What magic can create? And things have been really good. So I just want to share a few things. It's all in application. And I just... So recently I published this book called Think Books. Some of you will get it. And it's a book which is a notebook that will make you think. And then it has my name on it. So sometimes I think, did I create it? I have my name. We sold a few thousand of them in the last 8 weeks. And then if I didn't internalize the chapter 2 verse 47, I would immediately think I did it. But really I did not do it. There's a village behind it. And in fact, if you open this, it has a lot of empty pages. And then my friends would tease me saying that I have written 18 books. This is the best-selling book in the shortest period of time. And one of my friends said, you know what, there is a lesson here. Your best-selling book has a lot of empty pages. I think you should publish books with empty pages. Then that's when you will sell more. Don't write. So, jokes apart, if you think about it, I just made a list of things in this book. I'll use this book as an example of putting Gita in action, especially one verse. So for this book to sell, what is the one thing that you need? Somebody has to buy it, isn't it? There has to be a customer. So how did I get the customer? So if I say, I cannot, first of all, as soon as you know that there is a customer involved, you know that you are not one person who will do it. If nobody buys it, there is no sale, isn't it? Already it shows that you need one more person at least to make this happen. So you cannot take credit for everything. Otherwise you write it, you publish it, and nobody buys it, nothing happens. So years ago, I am connected to a person called Shraddha Sharma. She runs yourstory.com in Bangalore. She introduced me to one person called Kshitij, who was asking me some questions about funding in Silicon Valley. And at that time I did not realize that it will lead to something else. I was helping him with what to do, what not to do. He introduced me to his partner Vishen, who is the CEO of a company called Mind Valley. And then we both became friends, and now I am an advisor to the firm. I am like a mentor to the founders. So I was creating this book, and then I was hatching, and I'll go back, peel the onion layers. It's like a flashback after flashback, but I'm going from the end result, right? So I had not even finished this book. I was designing it, how cool this will be and everything. And then there is a conference coming up, and my friends in Mind Valley said, we want to buy 1,000 of this. I said, the book is not finished yet. Oh, okay, then finish it, because we want to buy 1,000. Now that comes the customers. But that did not happen accidentally. It started about 5 years ago with a simple introduction. But the book itself, I had to know the concept somewhere. So that journey starts in 2009, 2010, when my friend Adeo starts a education firm called Founder Institute. I'm a teacher there. I've been a teacher for 10 years. So here is what happens. At that time I didn't know him very well, and they said they're looking for teachers. And I sent a cold email to Adeo saying that I looked at the syllabus. I don't think you are having everything in the syllabus. There is some things missing. Little did I know that he is a serial entrepreneur. He has already done 10 companies. He is also a roommate for Elon Musk. So they both were in the same dorm room as I didn't know. So I just said, I just felt that there was something missing. So he said, because it was a little bit abrupt, he said, hey, why don't you come and have lunch with me? So if I had said I want to apply for a teacher position, probably he would not have responded, because it will be one more mail he will get, right? So he invites me to lunch, and then we had lunch and everything. And he said, what is the missing part? I said, see, when a first-time entrepreneur starts a company, there is a double negative problem. First is, there is one negative, which is, it's an unproven concept. Second negative is an unproven founder. He has never done this before. So in mathematics, double negative is positive. In real life, double negative is double negative. There is nothing else. So what is your thing? So what do you have in mind? I told, you have to build a personal brand for the founder. If you don't build a personal brand, the double negative problem continues, because now they have to believe in the founder more than the concept, because concept is unproven, isn't it? So he said, I don't know whether it will work or not. So I told him, have you tried it? If you don't try, how will you know it's important or not? So I said, okay, I'll give you one chance. And if you get out of 10, if the collective rating is more than 9, I'll agree, you can do whatever you want. If it is less than 9 out of 10, then you lost. I took up the challenge, I got 9.7 out of 10. She immediately put me into the top 100 mentors in Founder Institute. And then I had a carte blanche access to any of the 65 countries where the Founder Institute operates. I could go and teach. So then I used to live in Singapore. I said, hey, this will be a good time to visit Singapore. And then I said there was an event happening in Singapore, I want to teach there. And all this time, as you can see, there was no goal. I was not looking at, I want to do this, that's why I'm going there. I just following my instincts, keep doing things that I like. So I went there, and then I taught. There was really cool people there. There is one person who is a student. He said, you're speaking very well, you should meet my mentor. His name is Frederick Karen. I didn't know who he was. I said, yeah, there's a meeting happened, why not? So I went there. Frederick Karen is a public speaker, really amazing. He makes about $1.5 million every year just speaking. And then he works only 6 months. I was fascinated by this person. How can anybody make $1.5 million? So for 4 hours I was interviewing him. I said, how do you do this? I was super curious. And that too only 6 months. The other 6 months he goes and lives in his own little island near Singapore. He does some creative stuff. So he gave me a tip. He said the goal is do only one thing. Because everybody wants to speak about everything under the earth. I speak about only creativity. That's it. That's it. Anything else? He said, Raj, think about it. Suppose I go to a company. I ask them, there are so many divisions. Which division is not performing well? Let's say they say sales. I will tell them, if you infuse some creativity in salespeople, do you think it will help? Answer has to be logically yes, no? You say, okay, let me do a workshop for salespeople, creativity for salespeople. Suppose let's say the marketing. I'll ask the same thing. Do you think a little bit more creativity in marketing will help? Say yes. Okay, let me do a creativity workshop for marketing people. Except for accounting people. It will always work. Isn't it? That's the only time we cannot say, little bit of creativity, no. They will be behind bars. They will have a slate and chalk piece and they will have to do creative stuff there. So that won't work. But that's all he would do. And then he said, but still, how would you get $1.5 million? He said, I have a book called the Idea Book. And I will say, now that you have done this, after the event, how will you practice creativity? So you do something, it looks like this. It's an idea book that has some ideas in it. In the middle of all the pages, there's some ideas. I sell thousands and thousands of this. I told him I'll have to steal this. He said, go ahead, because I have enough books that are sold. That laid the foundation for me in 2011 that I have to do something about it. But I didn't do nothing. So it's just planted in my memory. There's something I have to do one day. Right? And then, now coming to the fast forward to today's world, as soon as Mind Valley people said, I need 1,000, I asked them, when do you need it? He said, in 3 weeks. How do you print 1,000 books in 3 weeks? And that too with this quality, right? So I went back to my friend who I know from 2001, his name is Nilesh. He has always helped me with printing books, lots of them. So I told him, I need to print this, it's a new concept, so it's all good, but we need it in 3 weeks. In 3 weeks? How do you do it in 3 weeks? I said, that's not my problem. I don't know how to print, it's your problem. So my friend goes there in China, he plants himself in China for 3 weeks, he produces it. And if I didn't have the relationship since 2001, he would not take the time to go and produce, stay there in his own time and sit there for 3 weeks and do it. If you think about it, when I built the relationship with Nilesh in 2001, I was not thinking, one day 19 years later or 18 years later, I will need his help. So he has to go to China and he sit there and do it. I was not thinking on all those things. If you keep doing what you are doing, things will fall into place in the future. So that's how I think about it. Next comes the marketing. So meanwhile, when the book is getting printed, so somebody has to create the website. The last time I programmed was to send a fax from some computer. So it will date me for this. Some of the kids here will say, what is a fax machine, right? They won't even know what is a fax machine. So I don't know enough programming to do it. So that goes back to 2007 when my first book, Beyond Code, was published. A person called Joshua reached out to me and said, I saw your book. Well, I don't know him from Adam. So he said, I saw your book and I should interview you for a personal branding magazine, which I didn't know it existed. So I said, this is my area of interest. So I just gave him the interview and I sent him some articles and everything, and then it stopped. Then several years later he came to the Bay Area and then he reconnected with me And then we were talking and I said, is there anything I can do for you? I told him, there's this think book coming off, I want to do the website. So the problem solved because I don't know how to program, and this was the relationships in 2007, I didn't have to worry about trust. Right? So that part is done. And then somebody has to advertise on Facebook and all those things. Now I had to look for some advertising company. So a Mind Valley people had invited me to speak at their biggest conference called Awesomeness Fest. And I spoke there, and there was another person who was there from Israel, and she said, what are you working on now? I told her, I'm working on this think book, I'm looking for advertisements, somebody is to create some creative advertisements. He said, I work with a company in Canary Islands. First of all, I don't know where it is. So I believe it's somewhere on the earth. So you should talk to them. And I fell in love with them, they fell in love with me, and now the advertising engine is working. So again, I was not planning all these things. Then as I started building it, I needed to get video testimonials. And I was thinking, how do we get it? And then I got a call randomly from a friend of mine called Patrick Tejamolia. And he said, I was thinking, Raj, this think book is so cool, you should get video testimonials. I said, you're reading my mind? How did you know? You're eavesdropping my brain. 2007, he was working for a company called GE, General Electric, and he had reached out to me saying that, there is a concept called walk in your shoes or something, so can you be a mentor? So at that time I said, yeah, I will be a mentor. And he remembered me from 2007, and he now runs a company called Video Peel, P-E-E-L. And all it can do is, you just send a link, you click the button, and they can give video testimonials. That part is covered. So all this, I am not thinking. So if I think that I am doing it, then ego will come into the picture. But what is important is the content within it. If you think about it, it has pages after pages, but there is something, an insight that will give an aha moment, and there is a question, and it has empty pages. And there are a few more things which I will go through. And now I have to think about how did the content come into the picture, right? So, all these illustrations, I wish I could do this illustration, I cannot. So, this goes back to my year 2009. When I was discussing with my childhood classmate, his name is Naveen Nagai, he is now a partner at McKinsey. I was telling him this Twitter thing is a waste of time. 140 characters, what can you do with it? So everybody is wasting their time posting, I'm here, I'm having coffee, and I just checked in here, checked in there. It's a total waste of time. So what happens when you talk to your childhood friends? They are not politically correct people. You will say, you know what, Rajesh? You are whining and whining and whining. Why don't you clearly say you don't know how to use Twitter, rather than saying Twitter is bad. It's like a knife. What you do with the knife depends on the person who has the knife. Knife does not have a problem. So somebody else would not have said it, right? He doesn't care what I think. I know him since my childhood. So I asked him, what can anybody do with 140 characters? He said, that's not my problem. You are the one who is complaining. You figure it out. I didn't say anything wrong with Twitter. So then I said, what can I do? I am a writer. So I started writing books on Twitter. So which is basically in 140 characters, I'll write something and then I'll say I'm stitching this together in a book. So that started, and then somebody from Malaysia reached out to me. His name is Ming. He became a close friend. And he said, Rajesh, I'm really liking what you are writing on it. It's making me think. So, shall we illustrate them? I said, yeah, that will be good. So he started illustrating what I was writing on Twitter. And that built a relationship, which finally, he became the person to illustrate all these napkin sites. So, did I go after Ming? No, because I was just doing what I was doing. In fact, I would not even have touched Twitter if I didn't have that conversation and he put me down, saying that I don't know how to use it. So I'm just doing this. So that happened. And then I myself then they had to have questions, right? So earlier version had book and some napkin side and that's about it. So I met a person called Ofer Breyer in Israel, who became my mentor, and he looked at the book and said, people will do nothing with it. It will become an intellectual entertainment if you don't add a question. Because they will read it and they say, I don't know what to do. So they just go away and then things will happen. You should add a question there. Now, how did I meet Ofer? One of my students in the Founder Institute said, Rajesh, I know a person called Asaf Guri. You should meet him because he's a design expert. And I met Asaf. We hit it off well. And he said, you are really bright. You are like a polymath. You should meet my mentor, Ofer Breyer. He should talk to you. And it was just like some people say, love at first sight. With Ofer, it was respect at first sight. Because he's just a genius person. So, I wanted to add these questions. And he said, I wrote the questions. And he was very nice. He said, these questions are good, but they don't work. I think you are good at writing those napkin sides. Questions are not your cup of tea. You should talk to some professionals. Who will I talk to? That goes back to 2006, where I was, one of my companies was in an incubator called Plug and Play. And there was one more lady called Promise Pilon. She was building a company called Upmo. And I became an informal advisor. And she had some contacts at Rutgers University, and they had invited her to do workshops on storytelling for Rutgers MBA students. But she could not go. And then I'm a warm body walking around. He said, are you doing anything on those days? I said, no. Can you teach storytelling for MBA students? I said, yes. Because I'll keep doing whatever God is sending me, I'll just do whatever is takes. Then I asked her, where is it? It's in the East Coast, Rutgers University. Okay, I went there, I gave 6-hour workshops, 2 of them to MBA students. They were very happy. And then they also paid me. I asked them, who is paying for this? So they said, there's a company called Boardroom. We are paying. Why are they paying? Because one of the alumni is the president of Boardroom. And I didn't know who was Boardroom. So I looked up and they're a huge $130 million direct marketing company. They send out 1 billion pieces of mail. I got fascinated. I told them, please introduce me because I don't know them, but I would like to know. Even then, I did not know that there was something going to happen because of this connection. So they introduced me to Brian Kurtz. And the relationship went on. Nothing happened for years. And 2013, he created an event called Titans of Direct Marketing Response, like people who market directly, one-on-one. And he said, do you want to come to the conference? I went there and I met some of the biggest stalwarts of direct marketing. Again, I was not having any plans, except I'm doing whatever God is throwing on my way, right? I met a person called David Deutsch, who is one of the living legends on copywriting. So he probably charges $25,000 a letter, to write a letter, right? And then some commissions. And then he was the person who Ofer said I should work with for the questions. Obviously, I did not pay him $25,000. He's a friend now, but I did pay him some money. And the questions became the hit in the book. But without those connections, if I had said no to that storytelling workshop, I would not have reached there. But I didn't know that I'm saying yes to the storytelling workshop so that I can get David to write the questions for my book. So if I had planned all those things, I don't know what would have happened. It would also mess with my head, isn't it? Right? And then the napkin sites themselves, how did I even get here? So I started in 2000, I would say 14, 15. I had a medical condition, which I even now have, but it's better now, where I lost my ability to write. So just whatever I write, it would become a straight line. In my mind, I'm thinking of writing just one straight line. So the doctor was treating me and all those things. So I was discussing with my friend casually, saying that I'm becoming an expert on writing straight lines. Everything I write becomes straight line. He said, I know you're making a joke out of it, but take yourself a little bit seriously and write something every single day. Because we are used to typing, everything is computer. So you take time, write it on a piece of paper. I said, what do I write? Because everything is typing. He said, remember, you started writing these books on Twitter because they are short sentences so long back. It was almost like God was preparing me for that way before I needed it. So you went in to write something. And then if I write something, I also need to illustrate. So for that, I have to go to 2008, where after my first book was published, so somebody said I should publish a manifesto on a place called changethis.com. Have any of you heard of Change This? It's like manifestos that people publish before they become books. So I had written a manifesto for them called 25 Ways to Distinguish Yourself, and I forgot about it. And I got a mail from the editor saying, your book has been downloaded over 100,000 times. So first of all, I didn't know what was Change This. Now there is somebody downloading 100,000 times, immediately paid attention. And they said, we want to invite you to a conference that is run by a bookstore called 800 CEO Read. They sell books on wholesale. So again, there is no plan, right? I said, if somebody says something, I'll just come. I went there, and then until this time, I had not written even a circle. Because when I was growing up, my mom said, you can, because I was a writer, she gave me 3 choices. She said, choice number 1 is an engineer, choice number 2 is a doctor, choice number 3 is a loser. So, which one do you want to pick? So, I am not good at drawing. I said, if I become a doctor, if I write an intestine, they'll think it's a snake. So, I said, I'm going to be an engineer. So, I hated drawing. So then, next to me, there was a person called Dan Rome. He was with me for the whole conference. And Dan is all about drawing pictures. He has written several books called Back of the Napkin. So I was telling him, Dad, you can do it. Nobody else can do it. He said, what do you mean? You can also do it. I said, no, not me. Nobody else can do it. You can do it. He said, I will prove it to you. In the next 3 hours, I'll make you write drawings. I said, okay. And then he actually proved it to me. And after that, I started drawing on my blog. I have about 2,000 blog posts on my blog. And I started illustrating it myself. So, if you see what is happening, everything is coming together. But I didn't know that it was all converging to something, right? So I started drawing this napkin sites. And then this time I had one goal because I had to keep something. It would take me between 20 to 35 minutes to write one napkin site. Because it's very, very slow. Otherwise, most of the time it's straight line. I have to scratch it, and then rewrite it. So, because it's taking so slow, I was thinking that I should write something useful, right? And then my son, who is 21 years old, he said, you should post this on Facebook. So, for those of you who are here, more tech savvy than me, he said, how will I post it on Facebook? Use your iPhone. And then he showed me how to take a photo, put it on Facebook. I started putting on Facebook. And then, at that time, I had not named it Napkin Sites. One of my friends in Awesomeness Fest, his name is Chris Gardner from London. He said, Raj, these are insights that will fit on a napkin. You call them napkin sites. In fact, I saw that there is a domain available. I bought it for you, and here is it. I am transferring it for you. I said, okay. Then the napkin sites are born. And then somebody else said, you should number them. Because it's, otherwise how will you keep track of something? If somebody has to say, I like this, what will they say? Go scroll down the Facebook. On this day you posted, I liked it. So you started putting numbers. When you put some numbers, it automatically gamifies, right? Then you know how far away you are. So I was on 65. I said, oh, then I'll go to 100 and I'll stop. So By the time I was reaching 100, I got 2 more ideas, I became 102. 102 is an odd number, I cannot stop at 102. But I have to continue. At least I have to make it 250. So I started writing 250. Again I went past, it became 254. So I said 254 cannot stop. So what happened, I continued. Now I have 2,139 napkin sites. But I don't know when to stop because it keeps ending at odd numbers. So I keep continuing to do it. So I met a teacher called Maria Kellis. And she said, she does not know Gita. But she said, have you heard of the law of precision? I said, I don't know it. So again, your level of incompetence, to know your level of incompetence, you need to be reasonably competent on the same topic. I didn't know law of precision. I believe it's from a person called Buckminster Fuller. She explained it to me that this is what is happening. You are applying law of precision without even knowing it. Oh, that's good. At least I'm doing something good. So she explained how the bees work. Imagine if we remove all the bees in the planet, this whole planet dies because they do the pollination. And she asked me, do you know whether the bees know that they are doing pollination? I said, no, I'm sure they don't. I'm sure, I've not talked to them, but I don't think they do. Right? No, she said, all they do is they go from flower to flower, take the nectar, go to the next flower. In the process, their legs will catch some pollen, and then in the middle, they just drop it. But if you ask them, hey, guys, bees, did you do your pollination exercise today? They will have no clue, right? They say, I'm going from one flower to another flower. So she said, that's what you are doing. A napkin site after napkin site after napkin site, like a bee, going from a flower to a flower to a flower. But side effects are coming in a big way, right? So if you think about it, the key thing here is language, right? So if you want to write a long letter, it's easy. But if you want to write something small, it is more difficult. That's why Mark Twain said, I wrote this long letter because I didn't have time to write a short one, right? Because I run out of time. So, and it can be easy to be going on and on and on, but to make it brevity, it's very important. And then it has to be memorable and transportable. And the choice of words is extremely important. One word can make a difference. I was telling Dr. Bhavna a joke about doctors. He said, somebody comes and says, doctor, I'm getting this headache for last 10 years. You need to do something. Do any and all tests, but find out what is the cause of the problem. And the doctor does that test, this test, and after 25 tests, the doctor is tired. She says, I tried so many things. I did all this tests, but I don't think I can find out what is the problem that's causing this headache. I think it's because of alcohol. The patient clearly says, no problem, doctor, don't worry. When you're sober, I'll come back again. So if you think what happened here, right? The doctor had to say, I think it's because of your alcohol problem. The one word your makes a big difference. Otherwise it can be misinterpreted, right? Oh, the doctor has an alcohol problem. Poor guy, he cannot find out what can I do, that kind of thing. Right? So language becomes very important. I never appreciated the language until something happened in 2002. When I was running my first company, so my mentor then was, his name was Sterling Lanier. And I was asking him, in 2000 when I started the company, it was held in a handbasket. Some of you don't remember 2000, so young kids. But those of you who are a little bit old enough, you know that it was when the dot-com crash happened. So I and 4 other friends started a company in the space of recruitment. You can imagine how stupid we were, right? When everybody were firing, we were thinking, we should help people to hire. We immediately signed up 25 customers who paid $0. Because they said, your concept is very good. Whenever we hire, we'll use your service. And we thought, my God, we're the fastest growing company. Customers are signing up like anything, but of course, we're not hiring. And they would ask us, we are firing about 100 people. Why don't you help them find jobs? I said, now we are also getting resumes. No work. Little did I know that nothing is going to happen. Long story short, we somehow found a way to do some stuff in open source and we survived. And finally we shut down the company, not shut down, but renamed the company from Certified Talent to Signex. And then we started doing business in building open source solutions. 2002, we are doing reasonably well because we dropped that stupid idea of recruitment. At that time, now it's good, but at that time it was really bad idea. Again, it shows the double negative, right? We don't know what we were doing and we have chosen the wrong thing to do. So double negative was only double negative. So now I thought I have to get some really powerful board members. So I asked my mentor Sterling, can you introduce me to somebody who I can recruit as a board member? He said there is one person that comes to my mind. His name is Stan Leopard. He's like a sage. You should go and talk to him. He has done 35 companies. I said, that's amazing. So I go there and I still remember that meeting. It was in Menlo Park. So the meeting was between 3 to 4. And so Stan was ready and he said there's nobody in the office except him and I. He closed the door, there was some light music going on and I said, tell me about yourself. It's a wrong question to ask a storyteller. You can go on for days. I said, so where should I start? He said, you can start wherever you want. I want to know a little bit more about you. So I started how we built that, how we did this and everything. It was about 3 hours, 45 minutes later, it was 3:45. I was still going because I'm a storyteller. I talk, fish swim, birds fly, teachers talk. That's what I'm doing. So, and then he was taking notes slowly and steadily. And then at 3:45 he stopped. Hey Raj, it's 3 to 4 is our meeting. It's already 3:45. There are 2 choices. You can continue to do it and it will become 4 o'clock and the meeting ends and it's over. But you might want to ask me something. Otherwise you will have just talked. Is it okay if I also talk? So that's fair. Right, because I came to recruit him. I said, then he looked at his notes and everything. I said, hey Raj, I thought about it after listening to all the things you were telling. I think you wanted me to recruit me as a board member. I reject that offer, I'm not going to be a board member. It was glowing and suddenly my face shrunk. I was thinking you will say, Shabash man, you should pat on the back and everything. It was like a slap on the face. So then I thought that was the slap on the face, but what was coming was even worse. He said, I also thought about it, that you are not fit to be a CEO. And, how can he say it so directly on the face? At least he can be diplomatic, right? We can slowly ease it in, right? And then he said, after this you may not want to talk to me, but if you are game for it, we still have 14 minutes, I can tell you some reasons why you can't be a CEO. What can I say? Can I say, no, I don't want to know the reasons? It will look rude. I said, yes, please tell me. He did tell some reasons. He said about 14 or 15 reasons. What was going on in my life? I said, what is this? Like a CIA or FBI kind of person. He already looked at all these things. How did he do it? Everything that he said was right. So I was not fit to be a CEO. But the magical thing for me was, how did he know? That was more mystery for me. So I took copious notes, but by that time it was already 3:55. Then I said, Stan, are you a clairvoyant or what did you do? How did you know all these things? Then I asked him a stupid question. I said, is there any book I can read? Then he said, this is your problem. You think everything can be solved by just reading a book and some shortcut and everything? That's why I can't work with you. I said, then what? Just tell me what is it? I said, I don't have the time. It's already 3 more minutes. I can't tell you the whole thing. And then he stood up and then he said, okay, thank you very much. And he started walking, which means it's a signal for me to also get out, isn't it? So I went there and I was standing outside the door and he said, wish you all the best, I'm sure you will do well. I don't know why he said, maybe to make me feel good. Right? So with all the things that he had told me, there is no chance of me doing well anyway. So, but I said, you still have one more minute. Stan, give me some clue. I want to know something, give me a hint. He said, you see, what I did, Raj, is I just looked at the language you used. There is so much is revealed with the words that you use. I don't need to know more than that. I already know what is wrong with you by the words you use. I said, that was powerful. I said, where can I learn it? He said, you're looking for shortcuts. I can tell you, but you won't do anything about it. I said, try me, because still 30 seconds are there. At least you owe it to me. He said, there is in Los Altos, there is a network called the AGI network. And that's where I studied. I have been studying there for 20 plus years. I am now a teacher there and everything. I said, okay. I just Googled the AGI network. And there's in Los Altos someplace. Immediately I drove there. And then I knocked on the door. Of course, they were not expecting me. They were not expecting anyone. And of course, I didn't tell a lie. I just said, I'm just meeting Stan Leopard and I'm coming from there. I didn't say that he sent me. Of course, if he said, they were not expecting me, right? Oh, Stan Leopard, you come on in. And I said, I don't know what they do. So I said, so what do you want? I said, I want to join the course. What course? Whatever you are teaching. They thought I'm like out of my mind. So that journey of 7.5 years of linguistic philosophy helped me realize the power of language in a really, really big way. So much that anything that I can say, I know I can make it powerful just by changing 1 or 2 words. Like I'll give an example. Shall I give an example?
Yes.
So I'll say, I like to build long-term relationships. Suppose I say that it's not memorable or it's not transportable. That means you are not going to repeat it to somewhere else, saying, I met a speaker, he wants to build long-term relationships. And people will look at you like, so, what is it? But you can add a story in 2 sentences that will make it memorable and transportable. For example, I meet with you and I said, if I meet someone I like, I give them a one-way ticket to my heart. When they reach there, it's like Hotel California. Now you'll start thinking, of course, if we go and tell this in India, they will not know what is Hotel California. But here, everybody knows that I hold them dear for life and I'll never let them escape from my heart. It is the same thing. It's building long-term relationships. I infuse some story along with it. Right? So, that when I was studying the linguistic philosophy, I did not know that it was preparing me for a situation when I have a medical condition, I have to write something with great difficulty. The language becomes very important because I can't write long sentences. But if I was not prepared for it, I could not even write something useful in short sentences, isn't it? So if you think about what has happened, throughout the life, I have been building building blocks, which is something that I can use later to build something useful. But when I was building the building block, there is no goal for it, because it's just a building block. If you see the Lego blocks, how do they work? There are some 100 pieces, but you can build a superstructure, you can build a home, you can build a car, you can build a bike and everything. But the individual Lego block has no meaning. But that does not mean that I should not be building it, which is the final part in the chapter 2, verse 47, that you commit to your actions but don't expect results for it. But don't also not take action, which means that you should continue to take action. The continuing to take action was the art of building building blocks, because I didn't stop taking action. But I was not looking for results, because in an individual building block, there is no result that comes. It's just a piece. The question for you is, what building blocks are you building so that later you can build superstructures from it? That's something for you to think about. So far so good?
Yes.
So I want to show you something. because there is no space here, but I can show it to you, whatever little I have. How many of you know this game called the game of Go? Anybody has heard of, at least some of you have heard of it because I talked about it yesterday.
Yes.
For those of you who heard it, was it interesting?
Yes. It was not.
So I want to show you something. See. The Go game is played with a 19 by 19 board like this. Any of you have heard it, seen it? It's a 4,000-year-old game. It's a strategy game. Now, to learn what this game is, it will take about 5 minutes. To master this game, it will take about 15-20 years. Minimum. Why? I'll tell you the few rules, very, very simple. So especially if any of you, most of you have kids, if we can teach this game for them, it will change the way they look at life. So if you see here, it's a 19 by 19 there. How many squares are there? Any kids? 19 by 19? 361, right? So there are 361 possibilities to start with. So the goal is, it's a territorial game, which means, unlike chess where you want to checkmate the king, there is no checkmating here. It's a very collaborative dance, where the squares, I have to get a little bit more than the other person. That's about it. Every move has a meaning. So let's say I put it here. So what do you think I might be meaning when I put that stone there? Because black plays first. Anybody? What do you think I'm trying to do? Something. I had to have some meaning. So probably I will say, this corner, please give it to me. Right? Something. So then the opponent plays. He says, okay. What do you think the opponent is saying? Anybody? He's not talking, but...
They want the top corner.
Exactly. So he said, oh, Rajesh, you took the bottom left corner, give it to me, the top left corner. I said, okay, you can keep it. Then I just... So now what do you think I am saying? First of all, did I say anything to him? Because no talk is happening, but if you see, every move is telling a story, isn't it? What I am saying is, you keep that corner. Let's say Sunil, I am playing with Sunil. Please, Sunil, you take that corner. The board is big, you know. I'll take the other corner also. Now suddenly Sunil says, okay, or you are here. What do you think Sunil's, without even speaking a word, what do you think he is telling me?
I want to be a leader.
He didn't speak one word, but his actions are saying, you know, I don't think I want you to have that corner. I want to contest. But not once one word spoken, isn't it? I said, okay, Sunil, I don't want to do that. I will plan. So I said, what do I think I am saying to Sunil?
I won't concede.
I won't concede. This is my corner, I am going to keep it. Now Sunil has a choice. He said, okay, I tried it, but I didn't So what do you think Sunil is saying now? You fight that idiot, you fight that corner, I am going to take the bigger corner. Isn't it? If you see what happened, the thing is not even 5-6 stones. Can you see the story evolving with every move? Yes? Every stone is telling a story. Why do you think it is not like that in our real life? Every time you send an email, every time you have a conversation, every time you shake hand, what it is placing a stone, isn't it? Nothing else, nothing more. But we think, oh, it's just one meeting. Here, one stone, we are telling a big story. In one meeting, don't you think the other person will tell a bigger story? Once we become conscious of it, you so you become very present to every action you take. That's all it is, being present, because there is a story that is being told every single time. I'll extend it even further. Life is a game, like a Go game, that we are playing with the universe. So when I put that black stone, let's say I'm playing this life game with the universe, can I tell the universe that please do not make a move that will make it complicated for me? Just do whatever it is, but make it convenient for me. Will the universe care? It will do whatever it wants, isn't it? But the moment the white stone is placed by the universe, do I still have any possibilities? Now that the universe put the stone there, yes, isn't it? Because I have all the possibilities within the available set of possibilities. There are enough of infinite possibilities. In fact, the number of moves or possibilities in a game, Go game, is more than the number of stars in the universe. People have tried it, right? So the universe is playing a game with us, and then we have only one choice. First is to accept that move, so that it's the mood of acceptance. That if I don't agree with where I am, the reality is not going to say, you are not agreeing, okay, I'll change the reality. No. Reality will do is say, I don't care. Second is to be in a mood of wonder, which is, okay, now that the move has happened with the universe, what possibilities exist in the new configuration? There are an infinite number of possibilities there. We just have to stop thinking it should not have happened to me. Once you say it should not have happened to me, then my mental faculties are now completely used up to think why it should not have happened to me. He should not have said that. They should not have done it and everything, because the same mental faculties could be used to say, now that it has happened, I have accepted it. Let me be in a mode of wonder what possibilities exist within the new situation. I am here, where next? Isn't it? Does it make sense? Once you do this, that is the real application in my mind. Of course, most of you know more Gita than me, but in my own limited syllabus, Gita of chapter 2, verse 47, this is what my understanding is, that wherever you are accepted, and keep doing whatever you are doing, like the law of precision, like the bees, and then don't worry about the results, because one day it will all come together, or it's a grand plan that you don't know, but the God knows, but it'll happen. I always say, people ask me, what, can you describe yourself? I said, I am a work in progress. I guarantee work, I leave the progress to God. That's all there is. So if I think for 1 second that I did it, the ego has taken over. Because I told this simple book. Can you imagine how many people were involved in this book? It will be arrogant for me to say, of course my name is there. I've given credits to everyone. But nobody reads the fine print, Nobody says, oh, the questions were from David Deutsch. No, they will give me the full credit. But I cannot take this to my head, that I did it. Isn't it? That's why in the end of the book, I have a section called To Thank List. Why? Because I put this, because many times we take so many things for granted, especially from our spouses and people that we love. They help us, and then you just, they should, my husband or wife, they have to do it. But we don't recognize how much of their heart and soul is put in to help us. So I put a list there. So anytime anybody does anything small, I just write their name and what did they do for me. So that I always remember that it's not me alone. There are enough people who are helping me. As I keep giving more credits, my ego is in check. Forget about it's morally right to thank and all those things. It's an insurance policy against your ego, that you don't let your ego get to your head. So more thanking, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your ego is checked. Does it make sense? Yes. That's why there is this to thank list. I did this book for myself, just so that I never become arrogant and think that I am doing this. After this, I thought about every single project that I am involved in. It is a humbling experience. I have a company called Advisor, which is basically a micro podcast on steroids, which is, I have some of the world's best experts, Seth Godin, Tom Peters, Tom C., my friend who is the creator of Google Glass, all of them given insights on 3 minutes or less, small micro podcasts. We have 3,000 of those with 130 experts. Just by saying this, you know that it is my company. I co-founded it with my friend Mike. The moment I said we have 3,000 micro podcasts from 130 experts, that company has no meaning if those experts are not there and the micro podcasts are not there. How can I take credit for it? It's impossible. Just that I get credit. So I just have to be thankful for it. But without their contribution, it is zero. Isn't it? So, how did the first person came into the picture is, I think when I last spoke, I told you that when I wrote my first business book, I wanted to get to Tom Peters, and because he's my business hero. And finally, through a network, I got to Tom Peters. He wrote the foreword. But I have to thank the 30 people who helped me to get to him. Without that, I would not have reached Tom Peters. He would not have written the foreword. When I wanted to build Advisor, if he was not there, the other people would not have come. The life is a blessing if you start thinking that so many people have to come together to make things happen. Like I'm sitting here and talking without Sunil and Bhavana deciding to do this thing. There is no event, isn't it? Somebody has to lead it. And then you all came together and Sunil will say that if you all didn't come together, there is no event, isn't it? So everything, it takes a village to do anything meaningful. And that's the power of that verse. And that's why I'm sort of stuck in one verse in Bhagavad Gita, because it never ends. The magic continues. I'm sure there are other 699 verses which are really powerful, but I am like a one verse wonder. I only know one thing. I'll keep doing it for a long time to come. I'll just commit to the actions, never worry about the results, and magic continues to happen.